We did it. Guys, we actually did it. I am an Ironman. This video is just going to be like a race debrief. Yeah, I actually tipped some Fanta in here just before. Tastes so much sweeter out of a mug that I very much deserved. This video is just going to be like a debrief. And when I say a debrief, I'll try and make it as concise as possible and not straight. I literally wrote, this is like an essay. I didn't even do this in school. Like, I wrote down what I want to talk about. I basically kind of wrote it all out because it's been 2 and a bit weeks now since I crossed that finish line, and it only just started to kind of settle in a few days after / like the week after, like what we did, what we accomplished, how long it took, like the magnitude of becoming an Ironman. It's hard to describe if someone hasn't done it, and I say that in like not a patronizing, condescending way, but when I was physically there, like watching my sister do the Ironman, like I was there all day, I still didn't understand what it was. It's the only way that you can reference it is like, oh, that's long, like that's a long day, but you don't know what it actually, it's really weird. And you can only have a full conversation with someone who has done an Ironman or done, to be fair, only an Ironman, because I can't compare even the run at the end to my ultra because they're two completely different things. So I'm going to try and break it down like as best as possible and not ramble for too long. Otherwise this video, no one's going to watch it. But for anyone who cares, this is the official Ironman debrief. So it all began. Now, but like I said, I'll start from the top. I'll be kind of looking at my laptop, and like first off is obviously the swim. Like, I will never, ever, ever, ever forget that feeling of being there on that beach. And I've watched the video. Anyone who follows me on Instagram was probably sick to death of me sharing them to my story of the famous and iconic like Ironman claps, cheers, chants, the speech that happens before they play AC/DC. That is just like iconic. 9 months of hard work led up to that moment, being on that beach next to my brother. And like, normally my heart rate is like 40 odd, like 48. And I looked at my watch and it was 125, my heart rate. I hadn't done anything. I hadn't had any caffeine. I was just so hyped. It's weird. Like, recently, I don't feel nerves, which is awesome. I just feel excitement. And I was so excited to get started, to like get the show on the road and just kind of, yeah, even now I'm kind of like stumped for words, but like the feeling, it just takes over you. Like, it's so many emotions going through, like obviously being a bit scared of like the swim, the hard work that you have done. You reflect on like all the long rides, all the long runs where you're like on your own and you didn't want to do the session, but you got it done because you knew that it would lead you to this greater goal. And that's the first time in my life that I've trained that long, that hard, being that dedicated to one thing and one thing only. And that was the swim, the bike, and the run. And obviously, it being my first triathlon, my first race in that environment, I had no idea what to expect. The way that the swim's broken down is fastest people go at the front, slowest people go at the back. You find your kind of way in the middle. They have marker points of like sub 1 hour, 1 hour 10, 120, 130, 140. And I agreed to like stand near the back with Mal because, again, a lot of people say you do panic because there's arms flying everywhere, you're getting kicked. It's like a fist fight in the water. So I stood a little bit further towards the back. We was kind of like some of the last people going in the water. And this was like mistake number 1 of the day, was not necessarily underestimating what I could do, but just being a little bit more complacent. Because like I said, I was standing next to Mal. He wanted to go near the back. I didn't see anything wrong with it. But this was my first issue because I should have really started around about 1 hour 20, maybe at the back of 1 hour 10. That's being a little bit more ambitious. But in the swim, I overtook 84 people. Like, and I know about it. The goal was, the bell went, we ran in the water. I gave Mal like a slap on the back, and then it was go time. I dived straight in. And my goal was just find a rhythm, get as comfortable as you can. Don't look at your watch. Don't think about how far you have to go, because this was going to be our longest sea swim. We only did around about 5 sea swims before. We did a couple of lake swims, but it doesn't really count. Sea swim, about our 5th go. And there, where I started, it meant there was like heaps of overtaking. I was being kicked in the face, and I was doing like quick sprints that I'd kind of look up, I'd sight, I'd find a gap and I'd sprint through it like really, really fast. And then I'd pull back a bit because obviously I don't want to burn too many matches. I don't want to come out the sea absolutely kind of done for. I got into a good rhythm pretty quickly. Honestly, the swim was fine. Like I didn't dread it. I thought it was going to be worse than it was, to be completely honest with you. There was only one point on the way back. We got to the turnaround, and on the way back, I tried to kind of sprint through someone, and then they kicked me in the chest like so hard that I swallowed what felt like half the sea. And I was just like treading water, thinking I'm going to be sick. And I was going like reaching like I'm going to throw up because I swallowed so much water. And one of the marshals come over to me and was like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" I just gave like a little thumbs up and then just carried on swimming. No one can as well like prepare you for the feeling of land when you've been horizontal for so long and then you stand vertical with actual real gravity. Like you get out and you feel like you've taken something, in the sense that you're really wobbly, you're a little bit like disorientated, because again you've been looking at like nothing for, it took me 90 minutes, give or take. You can look up my times, or maybe I'll post them somewhere. It took me around about 90 minutes. So laying horizontal for 90 minutes, floating about in the sea, it was a weird one. But my biggest lesson was start at an appropriate time, which I obviously will do. I was so happy that the swim was done. Felt a bit dizzy, wobbly, dazed, and like a huge sense of relief. I kind of grabbed, I don't know if it will be on film, I grabbed a water cup that they were handing out, and I like drunk it, but like threw it on me. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was in no rush, obviously, so I was running up kind of the red carpet, up the ramp. It was my first Ironman. I didn't have a time I was aiming for. And after seeing my sister, obviously we was there like all day, they just kind of ran past us. And I was like, oh, this spectating this triathlon's kind of not as good. So the people who come to support me, I stopped and spoke to them at like every opportunity. It's not a big deal. Yes, I could have been quicker overall, but I wanted to have fun with it. I just wanted to enjoy the day for what it was worth, and make it kind of enjoyable for everyone. So that was my opportunity to kind of break up the day a little bit. After a little chat with everyone, I jogged to T1. It was around about 600 meters from the sea exit to where our bikes were. I was in T1 and I was like so cold. On top of all the issues that I have that kind of, is it Raynaud's or whatever it is? And my hands and feet just were purple. Like I was literally shaking like this. I needed help to like undo my wetsuit because I physically couldn't like get the zip and like peel it off because my hands were like shaking. And someone come over to me in the transition again. They were like, "Are you all right?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just really cold." So definitely swim quicker next time, because being in the water for that long, regardless of who you are, it makes you very cold. In my transition one bag, I had like a small towel for my feet, had a squares bar, some extra food. I had a carb drink that I had there whilst I was kind of drying off and waiting for my hands to be able to feel them again. Once I was obviously dry, I put my socks on. I left my shoes on the bike, not because I thought it was going to be quicker. It's because obviously the transition was like grass, and I assumed like the cleats at the bottom will just get loads of turf in, then it's going to annoy me on the bike or whatever it may be. So I kind of stood around in transition. I was there for 15 minutes. I was like looking at the watch and I was like, I can't be here any longer, because obviously Mao was in the sea. I didn't see him come out because I was first, and I wanted to see him to make sure that he was okay. But I'd already been there 15 minutes. I was like, okay, I'll catch him on the bike, or I'll find out from the others when I see them. Is he all good? Like, did he get out the sea? What was his time? And things like that. And so I grabbed my bike, was coming out the transition, and then I saw Mao, and I was like, okay, cool. Like, I can breathe now. I can race properly. Race in a sense that I can get on the bike and not have to worry for the next kind of almost 90 kilometers until I hit a turnaround point and come back and I have the opportunity to see him. Because one thing is like racing on your own, and then racing when your younger brother is in the sea, like on the bike behind you and things like that, like you start to worry. It's funny, we had like the same realization. We only spoke about it after, that when we come out the sea and slash go into transition or getting on the bike, we was both like, why are we doing this? Like, we actually trained for 9 months, paid 700 like something pound to do this for the day. Like, yeah, I had a bit of a moment where I was just like, what are you actually doing? Like, therapy is so much cheaper. Why don't you just, this is crazy. But as soon as you come out the transition, you're kind of jump on the bike and you're met with a hill to go up across towards the seafront. I'll put a map here or whatever. And it kind of just goes round towards, like, I call it the mountains. I don't know whether you would call them mountains or whatever it may be, but that is like where we meet the incline. On the bike, I had no real plan. I didn't know what to expect. Our longest ride before this was 150K. It was around about like 6.5 hours. So I knew I could do 6.5 hours without stopping. And I was just going to pedal. I wasn't going to look at like my speed or whatever it may be. I had the average speed up on here, and I'm not going to lie, I sometimes flick towards the speed because I wanted to see how fast I was going. I was in my own world. I was excited to get out the sea. I was excited to warm up. It was a very hot day. It was like 22 to 24 degrees, which is warm regardless of what you're doing. And then obviously when you're exercising, so this was the biggest thing for me, obviously being a heavy sweater. I was going to take on electrolytes at every single aid station. On my bike, I had 2 mixed 90s, so 90 grams of carbs in 750 mils of water. I had enough gels to last me pretty much the whole time at around about like 80 carb an hour. I was pedaling, got my first buzz on my watch, which goes at every 5 miles. I looked and I was going like an average pace of 20 miles an hour, and usually on our rides I would average around about like 15, 16. Obviously we stop for roads, we chat, we coast a little bit, like, do you know what I mean? So it's obviously going to be naturally a little bit slower. So I didn't want to get too hooked on going too fast or going too slow. I was just going at an effort that I thought I could sustain for 6 and a bit hours. Again, I don't know what that was going to feel like. I was honestly having a blast. Like, it was the best time on the bike. I felt awesome. The sun was out. The course is absolutely epic. So scenic. The people are nice. The roads are incredible, especially coming from England where it's full of potholes and it's just horrible. One thing, like I said, I was being super mindful of was fluid intake and sweat loss. And obviously as we started to climb, it got a lot hotter and obviously a lot more effort was burnt out. One thing to note is what I was told as well from not only my coach or other coaches and people is, like, if you're hungry or if you're thirsty, you're too far gone. Like, little and often, especially on the bike, it's just keeping topped up. It's not like, oh, it's been 5 minutes, I'm going to have 30 grams of carbs, then 30 grams of carbs and 30. I kind of spread it out throughout the hour. So sometimes I would, like, again, I didn't know the course, especially on the first lap. So I would have like half a gel, and then maybe if we hit a descent, I'd just put it away and then I'd grab it again in 5 minutes, and I'd maybe finish a gel in like 2 hits or whatever it may be. It wasn't like I would literally have the full gel. And then the same with the mixed 90s. I was just kind of drinking them, sipping them. One thing is obviously the hills. We had like 16, don't hold me to it, 1600 meters of climbing throughout the 2 loops. It didn't really bother me. We practice on hills quite a lot. The road that we go on, the cycle path, it does have rolling hills and things like that. They're not as steep or as drastic as the one that we met on the first climb, but we're fine with hills. Like, it's not a big deal. It was really, really good. On one of the first hills though, second hill to be exact, there was a woman who was like laying on the floor next to her bike, and I just seen like 15 guys, it was about 10, just ride past her. Like, it was just something on the floor. And I like stopped. I got off my bike. I was like, "Are you okay?" And she was having a panic attack. And I thought, mate, these are men, like supposedly men, who didn't even stop for a woman who had got off her bike and laid on the floor because she was having a panic attack. So yeah, that was, yeah, like, it was crazy. I obviously stopped. I gave her some of my water, helped her bike, moved her bike. She went in the shade and she was like, "It's fine. Like, you can keep going. I'm really, really good now. I'm okay. Like, thanks for stopping," and things like that. And I just think, okay, like, I get it. Some people might be chasing the time, but that is just, I just think, like, if it was me or like my sister or a sibling who was there in trouble and you didn't even stop. So if this makes a round and you're one of them people that went past her, you're a scumbag. But anyway, after that, one of the coolest parts to note on this track was we got to go around the F1 track. I don't think it's used anymore, but that was a really, really cool experience. It was sooner than I thought. It was around about like 15 miles in, because again, I only looked at the map. I didn't have it downloaded. I looked at the map like once because, again, I'm riding it. It doesn't bother me too much. I didn't want to study it or anything like that. I was like, okay, cool. The hills are here. I had a sticker on my bike. The hills are here. I'm going to cover them. I have to do 2 loops. Doesn't really faze me. Doesn't really bother me. But the F1 track was incredible. Like, it was so smooth. It was such a cool experience just to like absolutely hack it round. That, and then we just basically went on the seafront, like to Lisbon and back pretty much after we had covered that. From around about like 40 miles until the second loop, it was pretty much a flat out and back to Lisbon. And on the way back, I managed to see Mal, so I gave him like a killer high five and like we slapped our hands, and I was like, it stung my hand because I was going at like 20 odd miles an hour and he was doing the same. So the pressure was like, yeah, and it was good to see him. And I knew that way to Lisbon, it feels like it's just going forever. Like, it's really weird. It felt like we covered like 80k out and then like 10k back. It obviously wasn't, but that's what it felt like in your head, because obviously on your first loop, you don't know where you're going. You don't know where the turnaround points are. You don't know how far this thing is. So getting the first loop out of the way like felt really good, because I've got this weird kind of autistic brain that once I go somewhere once, I will literally remember like, oh, there is this here, there's that there, or this tree means that the turning's coming up and things like that. So I was okay on the second loop. I knew exactly what was coming. I knew what was going on. But we went around the town. We almost made it. I almost made it to the second loop. And then I hit the one and only pothole on the course. And my TT bars went like this. And I almost like flew forwards and come off. And then basically this was like loose for the whole remaining 90k, because on the second loop we hit the climb again. I thought, okay, this is a perfect opportunity to try and tighten my bars, and I had an Allen key sat in my little zip bag, and I went to kind of pull it out and all my Allen keys fell apart like on the floor. So that was quite eventful. And by the time the second loop hit, I'd pretty much run out of fuel. Like, I'd eaten it all. I was like a bottomless pit. And it was good. It was sitting fine. Like, I'm all good. So I just kind of topped it up. At every aid station, I grabbed 1 or 2 gels, 1 or 2 bars. And I still stuck to like this 70, 80 carb an hour on the second loop. But I'd obviously like front loaded a hell of a lot before. And the main thing is, like I said, I was fine. Like, there's nothing really eventful that happened on the second loop. So we did an out and back. That's it. Coming back onto the second loop, you kind of obviously go right onto the first one. Seeing that left turn, when people were like this, telling me to go down there, I was like, oh, okay. Like, I had so much fun on the bike. I didn't think it was that long. Yes, my legs went kind of, my foot went a little bit numb. So I was just kind of unclipping, giving it a shake, putting it back on. But my legs felt good. In transition, again, I took my time. I took my shoes off. Obviously, viewer's discretion. It was full of piss. I didn't stop to go to the toilet all day. I just did it on the go. So I cleaned out my shoes, like took my socks off, obviously dried my feet. I put some kind of like talc to absorb any moisture, any sweat and other stuff. And then I put my toe socks on, put my shoes on, filled up with my gels again, and then off I go on the run. Like, I come out the run, everyone was standing there. I stopped again, gave them a little debrief before heading out onto the seafront. I usually come off brick sessions a little bit quicker because your legs are in motion. They usually feel good. You're already warmed up. So I was trying to be cautious of this. I did come out a little bit hot, but I pulled back and I wanted to aim for around about 10-minute per mile pace and just keep holding that for as long as I possibly can do, because that's not as fast as I can go. It's not slow. So I was trying to stay in the middle ground. The run course is 3 loops. I made my way down to the first turnaround, not knowing again exactly how far it was. And I had this weird fixation on like trying to work out where it'd be. And it kind of, that was my second kind of mistake on the day. I didn't really have a mistake on the bike. I could have probably gone quicker, but again, I didn't know to go quicker because I didn't want to spoil the run. So learning curve, it's not really a mistake. After finally turning around at like mile 4 or 5, I knew that I was going all the way back down to the seafront, but again, I didn't know how long that was because the transition is like midway point. It's like you do 4 and a bit miles this way, and then you make up like 5 or 6 that way. So it's obviously longer on the way back, but I didn't know that until we hit there. I knew that from watching videos, you kind of go to the start line. So I figured I just need to make it to the bay where we obviously done the swim. I finally saw Mal come in out of transition / running towards a turnaround point, and I was around about mile 6. So again, we stopped, had a chat, small debrief, spoke about the bike and how we was feeling. I told him the turnaround point was kind of long and just to keep going, like just keep going down the seafront. The run down to the next turnaround point was long. Like, it was really, really kind of disheartening, if I'm honest. Going through the harbor as well, it just felt like it was never ending. All these twists and turns, like slowing down, going, like, everyone who runs knows that slowing down and speeding up takes so much effort. Like, and at that point, honestly, my legs were done. Around about 10 miles into the run, I was kind of done. But in my mentality, I was like, okay, it's 3 loops. You do the first loop, you understand where stuff is. Second loop, you set yourself targets of, okay, I've just got to get to this point. I've got to get to this point, and then there's a turnaround. And then obviously when you're turned around, you're like, I've got to get to the finish line and I have one more lap. Like that was my mentality to try and break it down in my head, to try and make it a little bit easier. My mistake was actually when I saw Mao again coming this way, I was on my second loop. He was about to go finish his first. I was like, when you go through the harbor, don't lose hope. And I don't know, I knew what I meant because around that harbor, I was like, this is so long. Like it hit me that I've got two more of these. And in my head, it like kind of not broke me, but it just really hurt to know that mentally I've still got two more before I'm finished because it just felt so long. Like, so I said to him, don't lose hope in the harbor. Take a walk break if you need it. And then obviously the kind of pump up of the finish line will spur you on a little bit because you can almost taste it. Yeah, my mistake on the run was even on the first loop, not breaking it up into run, walk. I just did. I ran as long as I possibly could do until I was forced to walk. And obviously when you are forced to walk, you've kind of hit a bit of a wall. So trying to break it up earlier, maybe I wouldn't have got 2 laps without running and walking or being forced to walk, but maybe I could have done 1.5. So it would have made it a bit better. On the run, my stomach was not good. Like it kind of packed up on me. It's not that I was feeling really bad. It's the thought of a gel was going to make me sick, and running past the portaloos and things like that, I was almost sick. So the whole time on the run, which took me 5 hours, to clarify, the bike took 6.5. I only had one gel in the whole of the run. The tactic for the run though was each aid station take on some electrolytes, some Coke, some water, throw some water on me, and have a snack of whatever they're offering. It was nuts, it was crisps, it was fruit. Again, I didn't go overboard. It was just little and often every time I passed an aid station. The last kind of lap and a half, I'll be honest, the sun started to set. Things got really difficult. My legs were, I think, hurting. And I say I think, like, this is where it becomes really hard to describe to you what is happening, because your brain goes into like survival mode. Like you're probably like, oh, it sounds so excessive and things like that, but it truly does. Like the same for Mal. I don't really remember the last lap. Like I can't recall a lot of it. It's like very intermittent. Like I remember certain bits, but not all of it. It's really weird because you're in so much pain. You want to keep running because you know it's only like 500 meters and then I'm going to get to walk or whatever it may be. But my body was forcing me, like forcing me to walk, and I didn't want to. It was easily like the hardest thing I'd ever done. And I finally hit kind of the last like straight 5 miles after passing Mal. And I was like, I will see you at the finish line. I just knew I just need to keep my feet moving, even if it's a walk, even if it's a power walk. I just need to keep going. Like your brain starts playing tricks on you that it would do anything and everything to get you to stop running. Like the whole run, I was underfueled. I only had one gel, had little bits of aid station. I was empty and I had nothing left to give. Even in the harbor, when I could hear the music, I was less than a mile out. I was still having walk breaks. Like I was that close and I still had to have walk breaks. But the feeling of coming around the last bit in the harbor where you can truly hear the music, you can see the corner to where you're going to run down that red carpet, like the crowd, the feeling, it's like someone just stabbed adrenaline in you. Like it's crazy. I was trying to be so mindful of the whole day of just taking it in, soaking in the views, soaking in the atmosphere, but it's still a blur. Like there's parts I do remember, I don't remember what was going on, and it's hard to describe. Like my memory from the last few hours isn't there, but I knew that it was fucking epic. Like running round and just bouncing up and down. I rang the bell, I almost pulled it off its hinge, and just crossed that finish line. It's something that I can't recall properly in words, but without sounding like proper cheesy, like I have the feeling in here. And I knew months and months and months ago that I was going to beat Mal to the finish line and I was going to give him his medal. And this created like a core memory for both of us that I will never, ever, ever forget in my life. Like we did it from zero. We went zero to Ironman in 9 months. It's the hardest I've ever worked. It was an achievement that I'm like genuinely so proud of, which I don't get to say often. It didn't settle in for a few days. Like I said, post race, me and Mal were so like confused and drained. and couldn't really remember, couldn't hold a conversation. But then like 2 days later, it was kind of like, holy shit, like we did that. The feeling, it kind of like you're numb and then it starts to kind of come back to you. Portugal was the best time I've ever had, from the travel, the check-in, the first time even being in Portugal, like the first race check-in, the first time getting our backpacks. The course was incredible, the atmosphere 10 out of 10, and I got to share this whole experience with my brother, which is something indescribable that I will carry for the rest of my life. To anyone who's thinking of doing an Ironman, I regret nothing. The way that it consumed me, the way that I put everything else second, the work that I did, the feeling of doubt, the thoughts of like, what am I even doing? And now I'm an Ironman. I've already booked one event for next year. It's not an Ironman, and I've got 2 more to book. I'll be announcing them soon, but for now, anyone who's supported this journey, watched any of my videos, thumbs up them on YouTube, liked anything, message me on Instagram, subscribe to this channel because it's picking up some traction now. Like, genuinely, thank you. Like, I appreciate it so much. It's been a crazy, crazy ride, and I would do it all again in a heartbeat to get the feeling of what I've had and what I feel even now, 2 weeks post race. But more things coming soon, and I will announce them shortly. But for now, I am an Ironman. Peace. Road to Ironman. Done it.